Hello, everyone. This is Sam from the American Acupuncture Council, and we're glad you're going to spend some time with us again this month because in our continuing journey to make sure your practices are successful, we try to bring you a number of speakers and experts that can help your practice do that. And today, we have someone who I think is going to be fantastic in helping you with that. His name is Lorne Brown. He actually started in the profession not as an acupuncturist, but a chartered professional accountant, and then came into acupuncture. He's been in practice since 2000. He specializes in fertility medicine. And in that sense, think of fertility medicine. Those are patients that don't have insurance coverage and certainly are paying cash. And that's kind of his emphasis is don't be afraid of having that cash practice. Well, let me give you a little background for him beyond just the chartered professional. He received his Doctor of Traditional Medicine from the Vancouver International College of Traditional Medicine, postgraduate training in clinical hypnosis, infertility, cold laser therapy, and functional medicine. He successfully integrated his entrepreneurial skills and a background as a CPA and a passion for Chinese medicine, which I think melds really well because often where acupuncturists miss out is that they're great at the service, but don't understand the business end. And unfortunately, all of you have to understand not only are you an acupuncturist and healthcare provider, you're a CEO of a company, and I'd argue maybe a corporation. And who better to help you with that than someone that has a little bit of background in both and has really written a book on doing that. So we're going to bring him to you in a three-part series. Today is just the start of it. So we're real happy to have him. And so Dr. Lorne, take it away. And thanks for coming.
Sam, thanks for the introduction. And also thank you very much for the invite. It's always nice to know that people think I have something valuable to share, invite me on their platform to speak. So I appreciate the invitation to share with my colleagues.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to just jump right into this question here is, what's the number one reason acupuncturists fail?
You know, the main reason acupuncturists fail, and it's actually not just specific to the acupuncture industry, it's specific to small businesses. So acupuncturists on average fail in practice, meaning they don't thrive. They have to leave their careers and take on part-time jobs or maybe take on a whole new job just to make ends meet because they're small businesses. And by the nature of a small business, just because they're small, they're at risk of failing. Why? Because they lack the essential resources. They lack the money resource and they lack the people resource. As a practitioner, as an acupuncturist, you are doing the practicing. You're the doctor, you're the janitor, you're the receptionist, you're the marketer, you're the web SEO person. You got to do it all. And you can't be great at everything. And if you're doing other things, then you're not treating your patients as well. So small businesses in general are at risk of failing, which all acupuncturists are. They're all small businesses. Add to the mix that they're in denial that they're in business, and that expectorates the risk of failing. That really ups the ante here. They really now are at great risk of failing. So the number one reason why acupuncturists fail is because they're small businesses. And when you put it into Chinese medicine terms, because when I go to conferences, there's always lectures on treating ankle pain, knee pain, fertility. And every once in a while, a conference will have one or two lectures on practice management. And often you'll see over the meet and greets and in the panels, the practitioners are complaining how they're not doing well. They're not thriving, right? They're complaining about their membership dues. They're complaining about their insurance fees. They're too high, which I can tell you as a CPA, we pay nothing. Just to let you know, we pay nothing compared to what other professionals pay for their insurance and their membership fees. But yet we're struggling, right? But when the break is over, what classes do they go to? They all go back, how can I treat ankle pain better? Nobody's going to the practice management courses. So what's happening here is when you think of Chinese medicine theory, when yin and yang are out of relationship, there's disease. When yin and yang separate, there's death. Same thing happens to you as a practitioner. Yin and yang, your business skills and your clinical skills. Everybody focuses on their clinical skills, and therefore their yin and yang are out of relationship because they're great at clinical, but they have very little or no business skills. And when yin and yang are a relationship, your business doesn't do well. And if yin and yang separate, guess what? You have to put a lock on your door and you have to go find a new career. So what I'm looking and what I want to share with your listeners today is how to be successful with integrity, how to get that yin and yang relationship, which means you're going to have to understand business. You're going to have to learn business. You still want to be and need to be an excellent clinician. We're still suggesting that. However, you also have to give some love to your business side to get that yin and yang relationship. And that's where you see the successful practitioners.
Yeah, well, boy, I can't tell you how much I just follow and hear what you're saying. And I think that's what I've been lecturing for acupuncture since 1998. And that's what I have found also. It's nothing that's more disheartening for a person who's good at what they do. And then they wind up saying, well, yeah, I'm working at Starbucks part time just to make ends meet. And it's because they didn't hit that balance. Interesting you point that. I've been to a number of lectures that I think I see the same thing where people go and the treatment stuff is great, but they never understand the business end. So, well, let's kind of get into that and to make sure that, hey, this is your chance to kind of do that. And you do have to balance it. I'm not saying don't be a good practitioner. I'm with you on that. Well, what would you say are some of the secrets? What would you start with? Are there like a couple of nuggets or maybe 3 or 4 nuggets you have that we can kind of give them a way of moving to that?
Yeah, I think when we put this together, we thought we would share, like, kind of start off with 3 secrets. I know we have a series of lectures to go through, but today I'm going to talk about 3 secrets, and I'll put them kind of in order of importance. The number one secret for successful entrepreneurs, so whether you're an acupuncturist, a chiro, naturopath, you own a restaurant, again, these are just pearls that will work for any industry, any service, is mindset, your attitude. And the reason being is your thoughts, your thinking, your actions are always congruent with how you think, your mindset. They're always congruent. So if you have the wrong mindset, the wrong beliefs, the wrong attitudes, then the actions that follow will be incorrect. And that's what's going to lead you down a path of not being successful. So I have a background as a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine. I'm a CPA, so you got the business, the metaphysical, the acupuncture side. And I learned really on that it was really important to have that right attitude and right mindset. I was fortunate to have really good mentors as well when I was in the accounting profession and also when I was in Chinese medicine profession. And so when the heart and mind conflict, when the subconscious mind and the conscious mind conflict, the subconscious, the heart always wins. So if your desire is to be successful, but you're programmed on your subconscious belief that you have a negative belief around money or success, that you don't deserve to have it all, you're not good enough, then guess what's going to happen? That desire is going to be trumped by your program and your belief. And you'll find a way to self-sabotage, or you'll find a way to make an excuse not to take the steps or actions necessary. So the big picture, the blueprint, when you think about, the 3 treasures, heaven, think about heaven and human being here. You got heaven, a human being, and earth. So when you think of the 3 treasures, the heaven part is the mindset. Without the right mindset, you're kind of going to be lost. It's really hard to be successful. And when you look at the books out there, when you look at the motivational speakers, when you look at people that are successful, they all invest in themselves on a regular basis, and they all have the right mindset. There's a certain thinking that entrepreneurs that are successful have, and that's what you want to adopt, because if you can adopt this type of attitude, these type of philosophies, and have it sink down into your subconscious level, and there's ways to do this, then you're going to have the right action. Now, it's important to say that just thinking the right thoughts, I don't say you can't think yourself to success. It's not that easy, okay? It's that simple, but it's not that easy, because the actions always have to follow. The thoughts, the programming, that sets up the potential. But then you also have to go out and do the right things to make this happen. And I go into this in my book in great detail, and I know we're going to talk about some of this today, and we're going to go into more detail and other stuff.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So you're saying they have to have the right mindset. So when you say mindset, let's do something that will be practical, that they can say, hey, okay, what does that mean? Should they sit down and really write up a business plan? And what the cost? I mean, what are you saying about the mindset? Because obviously everyone says I want to be successful. But give me something that they can say. Well, what do you mean by that mindset?
Let's look at ones that are really predominant in the Chinese medicine field. So an attitude or mindset around money. So there's a very negative attitude around money. Money's evil. They feel guilty making money. They feel guilty charging their patients. Now, healers are not the only ones with that kind of cultural belief. Academics as well don't want to charge their students, right? It's interesting. They get paid by the institution. So the students are still paying them indirectly, but they feel really uncomfortable making students pay them directly. And healers, some of them feel really good being paid by insurance companies, but God forbid if somebody paid them cash, the patient's really uncomfortable, right? Even though the user's still paying for it. So it's that attitude around money. And again, put it this way: if you have resentment towards people that are successful, you hate the 1%, somebody comes into your practice and they have big jewelry and it really upsets you, or they drive a nice car, then you probably have a belief system that is repelling your success, because you're not going to attract the very thing that you hate and that you dislike. And a good litmus test is when your patient pays you for your fee at the end of the service, does it make you really uncomfortable? If it does, then I can tell you very easily that you're running a program that is anti-success, that's anti-abundance. Because think about it, when you go to a restaurant and you tip your waiter or your waitress because they gave you the best meal and the best service, are you doing it resentfully? Are you like, ooh, no, you feel pretty good about that tip. And do you think your waitress is feeling guilty and uncomfortable when you pay for the meal that you just had and you tip them? Hell no, right? They're really grateful and receive it with gratitude. But yet us acupuncturists get really uncomfortable around receiving money. So that's what I'm talking about, your mindset, your attitude, your beliefs, your programs. You know, do you feel, so to answer that question specifically, there's so many belief systems, and we can go into a lot of these. The main one is your attitude towards money. If you have a negative attitude towards money, that's your desire. I want to be successful. I want the success so I can have influence, so I can have comfort, so I can have safety, so I can have freedom. This is what your desire is. This is the conscious mind. But a subconscious mind is, I don't deserve to have it all. I'm not good enough, etc., etc. I'm not valuable enough. And therefore, you will block that. And there's people that they get to that point of success and then something happens. They get there, they keep hitting that ceiling. Why? Because on a subconscious level, they don't deserve it in their mind, or they don't believe they can have it. And they'll find a way to self-sabotage themselves, or they'll either not do the things that they need to do, or they'll find excuses to do things that will take them off their track. It's just human nature. So I love working on the mind level to start with. That's the heaven level. You get that down, you learn to program on a regular basis, the success mindset, then other things will happen. All the success tips, all the action steps that I mentioned when I wrote this book, Missing the Point, I say right at the beginning, these action steps are so simple that they're at risk of being dismissed and ignored because they're so simple. So it's not rocket scientists. You don't need to be brilliant to be successful, but you definitely need to have the right attitude. And the second secret, this leads into it, is on persistence.
Well, wait, let's stop with that one. I want to give before we go to the second one, just say with that one, I think a lot of acupuncturists listening often think that way, but I want to make it clear that when you went to school, you certainly paid for it. And that was a big part. In fact, many of them get loans and other things to attend, but there was a value there. And so I would kind of take this, when I hear you, I'm kind of looking at this, making sure acupuncturists need to understand that people will buy what they want and beg for what they need. And I often see insurance companies, and insurance, often people think they need it. People want the service. And when someone wants the service, as you mentioned at a restaurant, no one goes in because you need to go to that one. You want to go. Yes. And don't be afraid to have a fee that's fair, reasonable, that pays for the level of care you're getting. And people will be very happy to pay it. If I have someone that's very good at what they do, that may seem expensive to some, but not to others, because there's a value. So understand that people buy what they want, and acupuncture is something people want. So I think that's really kind of that change of realize, don't be afraid to say, hey, this service is worth this. This is what people pay. My goodness, it costs probably about $100,000 to become an acupuncturist by the time you for school and everything. So it's
2 points you made that I could
comment on with that cost.
2 points. One is on the value, which I agree. Value is the key. You need to give value. And around value, you talked about the debt, the school debt. So I would say where how I think of this, and it's a little different, is practitioners spend a lot of money to go to school, but your patients don't care how much debt you have or how many years you went to school. That is not valuable to your patients. So that value has to be what's valuable to them. So saying I went to school, which I did for 5 years and spent an enormous amount of money, that's not a selling proposition to your patient. So you do want to show that you have value, and you need to communicate that value. But how many years you went to school and how much debt you have is not going to be valuable to your patients. The other thing is, I don't think patients come to us for acupuncture. So that's one of the mindsets as well. Acupuncture is a tool I use to help my patients get well. So patients come to us for a solution. So you want to be a solution for your patients. I've had patients come to my office on numerous occasions for fertility help, and it wasn't until 15 minutes into the initial consult that they realized I'm going to do Chinese medicine acupuncture. They just heard that they need to come to my clinic for fertility. So they're coming for a solution. So people aren't coming for acupuncture. And if you think of yourself just as an acupuncturist, you become what's called a commodity. And commodities only go down in price usually because there's more and more acupuncturists coming out in the field. So that's where the value proposition, which we'll talk about, we have a second, in our second of 3 series, we're going to talk about how to attract patients. We're going to go into detail on what value looks like and how to create that value. But you hit it right on, Sam, is you got to have value there. And when you have value, you can charge a really fair price. And you don't have to look at what the market's doing. It's not like all these people on my street charge this. You charge what you think is fair and what the patients value, because patients will pay for the value. They'll pay if they believe you're the solution. So I don't want to digress into that.
That's a part for me. And I only bring up the school and the cost is because I find it interesting that an acupuncturist wants to give away their care so cheaply, yet they paid so much for it, and that I'm not sure they're crossing that value over to see it for themselves. So that's good. So that's that first one. What's that second one?
So persistence. So I was talking about the simplicity around the action steps, and that's because and where persistence comes in is sometimes I realize when I talk to people, it's managing their expectations. They'll say, I read your book, or I read the back part of your book because that's where all the action steps are, and I did it. It didn't work. And I know my book's been out since 2016, so I already know that's not enough time, right, for them to be doing it long enough. So I said, what did you expect? And they said, well, I tried it for a couple of weeks or tried it for a couple of months. So persistence is key. And so the successful mindset and the successful person shows up every day through their lifetime. Now, at the beginning, the effort, you don't sometimes see the reward with the effort you put in. But as you do this over time, the effort you put in gets easier and the rewards get greater. It's kind of like they say, an airplane, when it takes off, uses a lot of fuel. And then once it gets to the altitude, it doesn't have to use as much fuel. It's still using fuel, just doesn't need to use as much as when you start. So I'm in my practice since the year 2000. I'm still doing these things, but I don't have to stress like I did when I started in 2000. I don't have to work as hard as I did in 2000. Because I put the effort in, and now but I got to keep doing it. I still need to do these things. It's not like I get to sit in Hawaii all year long, right? I still have to do it. So the analogy I like is I like to think of the old well that has a pump, right? You're trying to get water out of the well. You sit there and you're pumping on the well. You're trying to get water, 5, 10, 20, you're pumping, no water yet. And some colleague of yours comes by and they see you 97, 98, 99, 100, and then they see the water coming. They're like, oh, look how easy it is. Look at Lorne, how successful he is. I'm going to do what he does. And they didn't see the 97 strokes that I did before they showed up, right? They only saw the last 4 things. So all these people that you see that are successful, all these overnight successes that people think are overnight successes, it took them 20 years to be an overnight success, all right? You don't see all the other stuff. You don't know about the Beatles playing in strip joints and lousy bars when they were young guys before they became the Beatles, right? And the U2 band and Lady Gaga. So you just see the good stuff. So I want to share with you that it's persistence. Now, I once asked my father about how to get rich quick. And he said, oh, I know 3 ways to get rich quick. He always told me about, and I'll preface this with, he said, you got to find something you love. Find something that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, it won't feel like work, and therefore you'll love to do it, and that's going to lead to success. And so I said, well, is there a quicker way to be successful, to get rich? And he goes, yeah, I only know 3 ways. So I go, well, what are they? And he goes, well, one is you could marry into it. And he said, unfortunately, he didn't do that. I was a young guy at the time, and I didn't do that. So that's one way. He said, the second one, you can inherit it. And he goes, that's a really bad way to make your money. And he said, and he wasn't rich at the time. He is now, but at the time, this was back when I was in my early teens. He said, yeah, you're not rich. You're going to have to work if I pass soon, right? And then the third thing he said is illegal activities. And he said, now, none of those 3 are in my camp. He didn't marry into it. His father, my grandfather, wasn't wealthy, so he didn't inherit it. And my father's straight and narrow. He doesn't do illegal activities. So he said, the only way you're going to be successful is if you roll up your sleeves and you show up to work every single day. And he said, if you love it, if you're passionate about it, then you're naturally going to put in the time that's necessary to be successful, because it won't feel like work. You're just going to love to do it. That's where most of us as acupuncturists, we're so fortunate, because most of us chose this field out of passion. I went from a CPA to this. I didn't choose this field for the bucks. I'm fortunate that I'm doing as well, probably better, than I would have been if I stayed as a CPA even. So I got fortunate that way, but I did have the passion and I persistently show up. So that's the second secret of success is these successful people, they show up every day and they still work on their businesses. They work on themselves. They're constantly investing in themselves and working on their business. Now, I have the luxury. I travel a lot. I can take off time, but I still work, right? I don't go away for a year for my business. I don't go away for 3 months and not play a little bit on my businesses. I'm still involved with people. I'm still showing up. And the principles that I share in my book, principles that we're talking about and that you teach, Sam, when you lecture, you got to keep doing it. I'm doing this since 2000 and I'm considered successful and I still do it. But yet some people tell me, oh, I tried it for 3 months. It didn't work. And I'm doing this, since the year 2000. So you need persistence. That's one of the keys as well. So you got to have the right mindset. And then persistence talks about action. As I mentioned, the mindset, your attitude and beliefs, that gives you the potential. Then you need to show up and do the discipline, the action. And that's where persistence comes into play.
Okay. Well, I am just loving what you're saying. In fact, I think I want everyone to really hear something important here. Acupuncturists have more passion, I think, than a lot of people because they usually go into it at an older time. No one's in high school thinking, I'm going to go to acupuncture school. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's rare. You come in with such a passion that often you really enjoy what you do and you love it. And it's just a matter of taking that and being persistent with it with the right mindset. And so I'm not afraid of acupuncturists being passionate, but I think the missing link is that first one, that mindset, because they're afraid to say, is being successful against helping people? It's not. By no means. And so that would be a good part to really most acupuncturists to hear, because again, I'll give an example. I've been lecturing since '98 for acupuncture, and I will tell you it's gotten better, but probably it's still the number that's about 50% of acupuncture college graduates within 5 years of graduating no longer practice acupuncture. And I don't think it's because they're not good at what they do in the sense of helping people, but they just didn't understand the other side of it. And so that's what's a big key here. So again, attitude, persistence, and passion. And then what's the third?
Third one is patient-centered care and your ability to communicate your value. So patient-centered care is really about getting into your patient's shoes. So one example is where I shared with your listeners when you really encompass and are saturated with patient-centered care is realizing that my patients don't care about how many years I went to school or how much debt I have. They just want to know, can I get them better quickly and effectively, efficiently, effectively? That's the bottom line. If somebody went to school for 2 years for $10,000 can do the same thing I can do after 5 years and $100,000, what do they care? They're going to go to the person that's going to get them better. So that's getting yourself in your patient's mindset. Now, just to let you know, because we're so passionate about this medicine, a lot of us are not patient-centered care, although we think we are. And I don't mean because you're nice to your patients. I'm talking differently here about just being, I'm talking patient-centered care. And when you think of this, we often try to convert them to Chinese medicine doctors, right? We try and teach them everything about Chinese medicine in that 1 hour visit that we went for 3 to 5 years for. So patient-centered care is about getting to your patient's shoes. So an example, when you go to an acupuncture website, most of them are loaded with pictures of acupuncture, needles going into the skin, right? Well, more than 50% of the public has a fear of needles. So you're already scaring away 50% of your patients, of the public. People go, but why not? I want to attract people for my acupuncture practice. I do acupuncture. Remember, they don't care. They're not coming for acupuncture. They're coming for a solution. I often joke lightly. I mean, please don't be offended or take this seriously for anybody that has reproductive health, but you'll get me, especially the women will get me, that I always say that the desire is so strong that if I told my female patients that after intercourse, if they would suffocate their husbands, it would guarantee a baby, that there'd be a lot of murders. There's a lot of deaths. They would.
I think you're right.
That's how badly they want it. So they're not coming for acupuncture. They're coming for, in my case, they want that baby, right? That elusive baby. So they're coming to you for a solution. Now, going back to that website idea, like because people challenge me when I talk on this. Your mind, you got to have the picture of the smoking moxa and the needles. So when you look at a dentist brochure or a website, do they show the big needle freezing the gums? Do they have the big drill? And do they have sound effects on the website with the drill going in for the teeth? Or do they show a beautiful smile? So you guys are stuck on the how-to. You love it, but that's not patient-centered care. You got to focus on the patient's needs. And so in the travel industry, they used to say, sell Paris, not the airline. Oh, from traveling from here to Paris, oh my God, the passport, I got to go to the airport, la, 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 la. They don't talk about how the journey to get to Paris. They talk about Paris. Sell Paris, not the airline. So you guys got to educate them about being the solution and not educating them about acupuncture. You love to get acupuncture. You love acupuncture, but that doesn't mean your patients do. They care about you solving their problems, being a solution to the problems. And that's that second part, patient-centered care and communicating the value. So to communicate the value, you have to let them know that there's value to this, and you have to communicate it. So to simplify, to distill it down, this is kind of what it looks like in my treatment room. Patients come in, they filled out forms. I have a sense of why they're here, but I always start with, what are your expectations today? What would you like to get out of our session today? So when you leave after the hour, that you feel your time was spent well and your money was spent well. And then I listen. Do you know that out of 20 people, maybe one will say, I want an acupuncture treatment? Most of them want a plan. They want to know how this is going to, they want to know that I'm going to get them to their place, but they don't expect it in that first visit. Very few will say, I want an acupuncture treatment. They want a plan. So first thing is you got to listen. And so find out what it is that they're looking for. And they will talk and they will tell you what they want, what their goals are. And in your mind, you're going to be thinking the things that you can and cannot help with. So once they tell me, so I want to have a baby, I've been trying, I have unexplained infertility I want to have. So step one is asking their expectations, finding out what they're looking for to find out if you are the solution. And then to let them know that you are a solution. So step two is to state the obvious. Hey, I can help you. I have treated this before. I can help you with unexplained infertility. So I'm actually stating that because that's what they need to hear. And they start to breathe deeper and they start to relax. The third step is to gain confidence and trust that you are the solution. So then I share the research and my success stories. So I share with them, let's say somebody has polycystic ovarian syndrome, causing them infertility. I will share some of the research on treating PCOS using Chinese medicine. And I'll look at, I already have an assessment of them. Several patients will come to mind and I'll share 1 to 3 stories of people just like them. Now they melt in the chair. I told them I can help them, and I gave them the constant trust through research and through success stories. Then they're ready for you to treat them. And then I tell them the treatment plan and how often they need to come in or for how long. And they go and they book their appointments. They're ready because they found out I'm the solution. I did it with confidence because this is the integrity part. I invest in myself. I study a ton on reproductive health, Chinese medicine and functional medicine and hypnosis and laser for fertility. I am constantly learning. So I can confidently in the room talk the talk and feel confident I can help them. I've helped thousands of women have babies. But guess what? When I first started, I didn't have success stories. So I used my mentor, who's Randine Lewis, because she trained me. So I used her stories saying I treat just like Randine. And if you don't have a mentor, which most of us don't, then you can use Chinese medicine success stories because that's the medicine. Chinese medicine can treat this. Here's some stories. And I treat just this way. So you can, and eventually you'll have your own personal stories to share. So to say that again, because this is the communicating the value. It seems obvious, but it's so obvious people miss it and they don't say this to the patients. Our patients aren't mind readers and they're not coming for acupuncture. They're coming for you to be their solution to their problem. And often they've heard acupuncture is the solution, but they're coming for the solution. So you listen to what their problem is, what their goals are. So you ask them what your expectations are. 2 is you let them know if you can help them. And if not, you let them know you can't. And hopefully you can refer them to somebody who can. And if you can help them, if you state, I can help you with this. I've actually helped people with this before. And here's the research on this. And you summarize it for them. And here's some success stories. And then you explain what you did. Usually they'll ask, so these 2 people, what did they do? Like the people like me that you just mentioned, how did they do it? And I go, I worked on their diet. I gave them supplements. They came for acupuncture 4 times a week. My PCOS patients, polycystic ovarian syndrome patients, come 4 times a week because I know that's what works the best and gets the results. They come over a 4-month period 4 times a week.
Well, I agree. I had a son that had some issues with vision, and it was expensive. He had to go 3 times a week, and I paid $110 3 times a week for 6 months, but it corrected his vision. So again, look at the value here. And I think what I want everyone, for me, this is my light bulb moment that I've had with you today, is that make sure you're understanding patients are looking for a solution, not telling them how you're going to treat as much. I mean, that's part of it, but the solution, how do you get there? And giving what I call a report of findings. In other words, explain to them what's going on, why you're going to do it, and then the results you're expecting and expectations. And like you said, you have a woman, here's the thing, if my wife couldn't have a child, what would I spend to have her have a child? Probably almost everything I have. And I'm not saying you rip someone off, but you give them something that really is a value, and the results are there. If you weren't helping people, Lorne, you wouldn't be around. Because why would people come? There's obvious success. And I think it's a shame when women don't get acupuncture or your care plan when they do have this issue. So I think here you can really see this rounding out, that a successful practice is one that you have the right mindset. You give yourself that right attitude and be persistent, and then ultimately realize what you do well is that solution. So this is great. I think this is a great start. Now, what I want to know is that we're going to move next time about how to attract patients, but any last little advice, and I do want to say that, you know, you've held up that book. I want to make sure people know, how can they get this book? You know, and is there a website? Is there any place where I can go and see more information from you?
Certainly. So the book is available on the website, missingthepointbook.com. Put in book. It's Missing the Point book. Missing the Point was already taken, so you got to put in missingthepointbook.com. The book's available online there. And then I have some free resources on my website, healthyseminars.com. It's where we amalgamated Prody seminars and pedagogy. So there are paid lectures for continuing education credits on Healthy Seminars, where you get CUs. But there's also a ton of free 1-hour lectures on practice management. I have a few on there, and people I respect have put lectures on there. So you can really get those business pearls that are dedicated to acupuncturists on how to build a successful practice. So those are the two main resources I would recommend people go to, missingthepointbook.com and healthyseminars.com. And remember, there's free stuff. You don't get CEUs for the free stuff, but there's tons of free stuff on that website as well.
Well, here you mentioned about people having mentors. Realize mentors come in many fashions. Free webinars, resources. The only thing I'd say is vet those resources. Don't Google everything, because not always is that maybe valid. But when you've got a good, valid resource, and like you mentioned several, get out there and learn. And don't be afraid to get a nugget or two from this person, that person, because most people that are successful, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. See how they did it and kind of follow that pattern. And I can't thank you enough. I think this has been a really good day to spend with you. And I think you're going to find a lot of value, the people listening. And this is nothing more today than just really implementing a mindset change. And then from there, implementing some other factors that we'll get into some future lectures. So again, Lorne, I can't thank you enough. I think this has been fantastic. I look forward to the next one. And so for those of you, please pay attention when he comes back. This is going to be a series I think is going to be important. In fact, I would argue everyone upon graduation should hear this. I really believe that, Lorne.
Thank you very much, Sam. And for those that are listening on your website, Sam, we have the laws of attracting patients, and the other one is on steps for hiring admin and associates into your practice. So those are the three that we have on there, and we can, you guys down the road, we can do one on what I do for the mindset. There's certain tools and practices that I do daily to help program my brain to keep me on the path of abundance and peace of mind and success.
Yeah. So bottom line is, don't stop learning. Don't stop finding information, because that's what's going to help you and your patients. So I'm going to bid adieu today for everyone, and I'm going to thank you for attending. Please, I will just say thanks, and ultimately make sure that you're out there being successful. Please note that, you know, if you need any information on all types of issues of your practice, coding, billing, documentation, you name it, the American Acupuncture Council is your resource. We're not only your malpractice insurance, but we want to make sure your office is compliant and doing the things. And ultimately, we want you to be successful, because your success is our success. We would not exist without you being successful. So we really want to make sure that happens. And we can't thank enough Dr. Lorne for being with us and helping towards that success. And so until next time, I'll say farewell.